I took on this big job once where I was in charge of the kitchen at a huge tourist attraction, and before I started I designed the menu and I wanted something healthy to offer, so I came up with this Nourish bowl after much trial and error, and it proved to be so popular. There are quite a few elements to it, but none of them are hard, and the thing is you can do everything ahead of time. I've had the flu twice in the last 2 months, so I really feel like this Nourish bowl. It's absolutely delicious, and you know what? It's vegan and this is how you do it. So first of all, I make the peanut dressing, which just ties everything together, and it's really easy to make. So I have ½ a cup of crunchy peanut butter here, but if you've only got smooth, that will work as well. And that weighs 130 grams. And then I add ½ a cup of water, 125 mils, 3 tablespoons of pure maple syrup, 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of sesame oil, 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar, 1 or 2 garlic cloves, and I just use a microplane and just grate them in. And that was 2 smallish cloves, 1/4 teaspoon of ginger powder, just 1/4 teaspoon of paprika, and 1/4 teaspoon of chili flakes. And now all I do is take that over to the stove, and over a medium heat I just whisk it until it's smooth and thick. This doesn't take long. And basically when it comes to the boil, it's ready. And this will thicken as it cools down. And I like to serve this dressing at room temperature. So I'll just turn it off, put a lid on and keep it warm. And the next dressing I make is a simple French vinaigrette, and I love this just put over the warm quinoa. It just adds more flavour and also makes it lovely and moist. So you'll need a French shallot, and French shallots are different than onions. They're milder in flavour. Now, you could chop it finely, but I don't. Now these are like triple the price of onions, but like 1 shallot will only set you back under $1. So I just finely microplane 1 medium-sized shallot. And then just ½ a teaspoon of prepared mustard. I'm using Dijon mustard, 1 teaspoon of sugar, just to take the bite out of that shallot, 4 tablespoons of vinegar, and I'm using a white wine vinegar here. And the last ingredient is just some oil. Now I'm just using a really mild flavoured olive oil here. It doesn't look mild flavoured, does it? But it is. And it's 3/4 of a cup, which is 180 mils. And all you need to do is put the lid on and shake it well. Oops, I forgot one ingredient, and that's ½ a teaspoon of salt. So just taste it, and if you feel like it needs a little bit more sugar, add that, but that's actually quite lovely. Now the next element that I make is the pickled onions, and they're really quick to make. They're not necessary, but they do add a bit of a wow factor and they look good. So I just slice 2 medium or 1 extra large onions, and I pop them into a colander, and these will last a week or more in your fridge, and they're really yum. And then all I do is pour ½ a kettle or a kettle of boiling water over them. And what that does, it just takes the bite out of them. And I'll just leave them there to drain while I make the quick marinade that they get soaked in. And it's really simple. Just into a small saucepan, put ½ a cup, which is 125 mils of water, ½ a cup of vinegar, white vinegar. You can use rice wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, or just regular vinegar. And 3 tablespoons of white sugar. And then take this over to the stove, and over a medium heat, just bring it to the boil. All I'm looking at doing here is dissolving the sugar in the vinegar. And once that's come to the boil, turn off the heat, place your onions in a bowl, and then pour over the vinegar and water mixture. And that will magically transform into bright pink pickled onions. So I'm just going to let that cool and then put it in a jar or a bowl, cover it and put it in the fridge. And that's another element done. So the next element are the chickpeas, and they add a bit of protein and a little bit of texture. So all I do is take a can of chickpeas and rinse them well. And then I dry them well, and I find microfiber cloths are really good for this. And then simply put them into a paper-lined little tray. Sprinkle over a couple of tablespoons of oil. I'm just using the light flavoured olive oil. A sprinkle of pepper and a good sprinkle of salt. Mix that all around. Now these will take about 30 to 40 minutes. You put them in a hot oven of 190 degrees Celsius with a fan, or 210 degrees Celsius without a fan. And I'm going to also put vegetables in, but these can have a head start. So I'm going to pop them in the oven and I'll check on them in about 15 minutes. The three vegetables that I love in this Nourish bowl are sweet potato, capsicums and onions. So I'm just going to chop them all up into bite-sized sort of pieces, like chunks. They will shrink a little bit as you cook, so not too small. And I'm going to weigh that sweet potato for you. I'm curious as well. Oh yeah, 900 grams, so just under a kilo. So I have a large paper-lined tray here, and as I chop the vegetables, I'll just put them onto the tray. I might put one more capsicum in, so that's 4 capsicums. I love the capsicum in this, and roasted capsicum is so good. And lastly, the onions. And what I like to do with the onions is just cut them into wedges. And what I do now is just drizzle them with some olive oil, quite generously. Sweet potatoes need oil to get roasted nice, I feel. And a good sprinkle of salt, a good sprinkle of pepper. And just mix them so all the oil is on all the vegetables. Now these will take a good 30 minutes to roast. They go in the oven with the chickpeas. Now one other vegetable that I really enjoy in this, and you know all these vegetables are optional. If you don't like something, don't put it in. These are zucchinis. And these don't take as long to roast as the other vegetables. But what I like to do is just cut them into sort of battens. Again, just a little drizzle of oil, sprinkle of pepper, sprinkle of salt. And these will only take like 15 minutes in a hot oven to roast. I don't want them to completely fall apart, so I'll leave putting them in the oven just yet. I'll wait till the other vegetables have had a good 15 minutes. Now the chickpeas have had about 15 minutes, so I'm just going to toss them around and put them back in the oven. They've got a little while to go yet. And the next element is quinoa, and you don't have to use quinoa, you can use brown rice, but I really like the quinoa and it forms the base of this bowl. And I always think that the manufacturer knows best how to cook it, so I always follow the directions on the pack. But what I do know with quinoa is you have to rinse it well, otherwise it can be bitter. Into a colander, a fine mesh colander. This will make a lot of quinoa, by the way, so I'll leave the directions in the recipe on the site for half this amount. But quinoa also forms the base of some really lovely salads, so I'll use it. So I just measured 2 cups of quinoa into a colander, and now I'm going to really rinse that well. And then I just place it in a large pot with 4 cups of water, which is 1 litre, and over a medium heat I'll bring that to the boil. Now the vegetables have been in the oven for about 15 minutes and they're starting to roast lovely. I'll just give them a little stir and pop them back in the oven for at least another 15 minutes. And I'll check on the chickpeas. And now I'll put the zucchini in the oven as well. So the chickpeas have now been in the oven for half an hour and I think they've still got another 15 minutes. I'm looking to get them a little bit crispy. So I'll pop them back in the oven. And the last element is some kale. Now this is cooked best to order. Like, I love it crispy and roasted in the oven. So what I used to do for food service was roast it all and then wait for it to go completely cold, then put it in an airtight container. And then when I had a serve-in, I used to just put some on a little tray and refresh it for a few minutes in a hot oven. But seriously, it doesn't take very long to make if you're at home. So all I do is strip the leaves off the stalk because you don't want the stalk, it's tough. And this seriously only takes like 5 to 10 minutes and it burns really easy in a hot oven. But I like eating this like chips. It's so good. And all it is to it is into a bowl, put the kale and a splash of oil, some salt and some pepper to taste, and just massage that through. Maybe a bit more oil. Then I just pop it on a tray and that can go in last when everything else is done. So once the quinoa has come to the boil, stir it just once. Reduce the heat to a steady simmer and put on the lid and set your timer for 15 minutes, but don't open the lid. So the vegetables are all up now. I've had 30 minutes and they're tender and they're still holding their shape and they're ready. So I'm going to set them aside. And the chickpeas have had 40 minutes now and they're ready. So I transfer them to a bowl. And I'm just going to give them a sprinkle with some dehydrated onion flakes, or you can use onion powder or nothing at all. They taste delicious as they are. And I've misplaced my garlic powder. Normally I'd put like a half a teaspoon of garlic powder in there as well. Put them on a paper-lined plate and this will crisp them up a little bit. Some will be more crispy than others, but that's fine, they taste good. Now I'm just going to put this kale in the oven, in the hot oven for about 10 minutes. And after the quinoa has been simmering with the lid on for 15 minutes, remove it from the stove, but don't open it yet. Set your timer for 10 more minutes. Resist the temptation to open it. And in the meantime, the zucchini have been in there for about 20 minutes and they're super tender. And they're ready as well. So I'll set them aside. So the quinoa has been cooking for 5 minutes. I'm just going to toss it around. And you will get some crunchy little burnt bits. You can just discard them. And pop them back in the oven for another 4 to 5 minutes. Keep an eye on it though. It can turn quickly. Now the quinoa has been resting and I haven't opened the lid yet and it's been 10 minutes. And now I take off the lid and I fluff it with a fork. And that is just perfectly cooked quinoa. So now I'm going to plate a bowl up to show you the finished product. Quinoa on the base. Little bit of French vinaigrette to flavour and moisten the quinoa. Some roasted vegetables. Some roasted zucchini. Some lovely peanut dressing that's just gone really lovely and thick. And you know, be generous with this one. some crispy chickpeas, some crispy kale, and the final garnish, some pickled red onions. So nourishing, so delicious. Hope you try this, and I hope you enjoy it as much as everyone else I've served it to. Thanks so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Now, just say you've got home from work and everything's cold. All you have to do is put some quinoa on a tray, as much or as little as you like. And this is how we used to do it, food service. And then put some of the cold veggies on the tray. And some of the kale, just to re-crisp it up, and some of the chickpeas to crisp them up a little bit more. And so the quinoa doesn't dry out, just put a little bit of that French vinaigrette over it and pop the whole thing in the oven for like 5 to 10 minutes in a hot oven. And then after 10 minutes it's all warmed up, and you can just put it into a bowl. Toss it together if you're not fussy about making it look beautiful, which I'm not if it's just for me. Drizzle over a little dressing, some pickled onions, and there's dinner, and a healthy, nutritious, delicious dinner at that.